All right, welcome. I'm gonna give it a few more seconds to let everybody who is gonna jump on. We have some obviously a replay coming in behind this for those that can't be here at 11:30 on a Monday morning, or that's Eastern time. So Pacific time it's earlier than that, and Central time is earlier than that. So I'm gonna give it a couple more seconds and let those that want to jump on jump on. Um, in the meantime, I'm going to welcome everybody here to Rehab Wallet and to Rehab Wallet Pick Fund's Masterclass. This is the second masterclass that we've done. My name is Kelli Garrett. I'm the managing partner and one of the co-founders of Rehab Wallet and Pick Fund. I flipped and been in real estate now, gosh, for almost 3 decades, and flipped myself for almost 20 years. So we opened Rehab Wallet through the lens of a flipper. I understand exactly what everybody's going through. I live here in beautiful Charleston, South Carolina, in a beach community called Isle of Palms. Came here a few years ago, let's say a few decades ago now, to play basketball at the College of Charleston. So I came here, love it here. It's beautiful here with the palm trees and the ocean, and ended up staying. So I'm married almost 25 years. And so, yeah, that's a little bit about me. Susie, I'm going to let you introduce yourself, and then we'll get to this amazing man down here called JD Crowell.
Awesome. Thank you, Kelly. Appreciate it. Guys, we're super excited. What a treat to have JD here with us today. My name is Susie Balda. I'm the Director of Sales with Rehab Wallet. I am tuned in from Charlotte, North Carolina. It's a beautiful day here today. Spring, probably one of my favorite seasons. Been part of Rehab Wallet for going on 3 years. Prior to that, all retail management. And I have the pleasure to supporting all of our investors with really just structuring their loans. So I am on for a treat myself to try to learn a lot from JD today.
Susie, thank you. Our mission here at the Masterclass is kind of specific. So it's to help business owners and real estate investors overcome obstacles, thrive in any market, and grow their business with success. That's our main key here, is to deliver value. And with that said, I can't wait to introduce you to this man here. His name is JD Crowell. He's bringing 20 years of experience. I'm going to have to read his bio because I don't want to miss anything. He's bringing 20 years of experience from building businesses from the ground up. He's the founder and CEO behind Responsive Companies, a vertically integrated real estate platform that he launched 8 years ago. Today, the company has 50 full-time employees, nearly 1,500 units, and is on track to generate a top line of about $30 million. Based in Charleston, South Carolina, with 3 satellite offices in Indiana, this is key. JD and his team focuses on a hyper niche strategy, operational value add multifamily in a secondary market like Terry, Kokomo, and Lafayette, Indiana. That's how specific they are. Their mission is simple but bold: become the #1 provider of workforce housing in the state of Indiana, and a long-term vision of scaling this thing to $1 billion platform. At his core, I know JD very well. JD's driven by faith, family, and personal discipline. He believes that building great people is the foundation for building a great business. When you invest in people, they'll build something far bigger than you could ever do alone. So that's just a simple introduction of this man. He's going to deliver some nuggets for us today. I'm going to get off this thing. I hope you pour into us, JD, and we'll sit back and we're going to listen to you. And I appreciate you being here. Tell Christy we appreciate her letting you be here with us for an hour, away from your family. But thank you so much for saying yes to it. And again, delivering some nuggets here to our people.
Yeah, Kelly, thank you so much. And just the whole entire team here between Susie and everyone else it's amazing to be on the call here today. I'm excited to pour into the audience and do what I can to provide some value. And that's the goal here today is to provide value. So yeah, I've been pumped. I was texting you yesterday about how excited I was this morning to be able to come on here and just feel really privileged and just can't thank you enough for the opportunity.
We're going to jump off the screen. You go to it, my friend.
I love it. All right. So for today, I think it's, the theme of this is there's a couple of things we want to touch on here today, which is the how do you win in an uncertain market? That was kind of the theme walking into this setting here today. And so I've broken this down into a couple different topics of discussion. And so I'll lean into each of these topics as we move forward. The first thing we have to start with, no matter what you're doing, it doesn't matter if you're investing in real estate, you're starting a business, or if you're just working for a corporation, it doesn't matter what you're doing. You have to get your mindset right. And so the first thing that I talk about with my team, or if I talk with other business owners, is what is the mission? We want to start there, right? You can't let external noise dictate your decision making, or the actions or the behaviors or the disciplines, right? We got to get clear on what it is that we're seeking before we can do anything else. And so I think I'll start with that. I know it sounds very elementary, but I was actually to give you an example, I actually went to work out with another business owner here in Charleston over the weekend. And this gentleman has been operating a business now for almost a decade. And he was telling me that he was struggling with some things. And the first question that I asked him was, "What is your mission?" And then I just shut up. And he said, "Well, we're working on that." And that's great. We're all, a work in progress. But I said, "Hey, you've been doing this now for 8 years and you're not clear on your mission." Well, if you don't have the end goal in mind, any road will take you there, right? And so I've found, just by being in these types of circles with business leaders and high performers, is the folks that win at the highest level are crystal clear on what it is that they're trying to achieve. And then from that singular level of focus, that is the filtering mechanism to decide what they do and what they don't do, right? So again, we want to get real clear on what the overarching mission is, and we'll use that as our filtering mechanism. So I want to put that out there first and foremost. When it comes to mindset, though, what's really critical, specifically pertaining to uncertain markets, is understanding that uncertainty is not new. Uncertainty is always present, no matter what market condition we're in. What we often lose sight of is when we're in a bull market, or when things are really going well. Oftentimes that adversity gets covered up due to that bull nature of the market. So you can make more mistakes, you can have pitfalls, and you can still win. Anyone can win in an up market. So it's actually really critical that you understand your business even better during an up market than even a down market, because you'll oftentimes overlook things that could potentially harm you when things do shift. And so, in the most recent season, we went from a low debt environment, 3% interest rate environment. Anyone can win at a 3% interest rate environment. It'll just overmask any major issues that you may have. But now, when the market's different, interest rates are higher, the economy, gloom and doom is happening, right? AI is taking over the world. Now that the tide is out, what we're running into is we're figuring out who's swimming naked, right? And so when we get into this situation, it's critical that you keep your mind strong and understand that when there's adversity, you shouldn't be going to the negative. What you should be thinking is, when I'm faced with adversity, that should be a signal that opportunity is out there. Opportunity exists. Remember, if this was easy, everyone would do it. And that's what you're seeing right now. When things are getting tough, we're finding out who's really an operator, who's really a high performer, and who's not. That's really the only thing that has changed. And so when you find yourself in this situation, just remember, what you tell yourself matters. Your subconscious mind basically runs on autopilot, and you're running on autopilot for the majority of your day. It's rare that you're actually using your conscious mind. And so what you're consuming, what you're reading, what you're listening to, all that stuff will drastically impact your mindset. Because what you consume is what you believe, and what you believe is how you act, right? So what are you doing on a daily basis to pour into yourself to ensure your mindset's always in a good spot? Are you reading daily? Are you praying? Are you meditating? Are you doing those things? If you're not, you got to start incorporating that into your daily practices. Okay. And by the way, I want this to be as informal as possible. Kelli knows this about me. I'm not as a super polished formal guy. I like to keep things pretty lax. So if you have questions or things as I'm walking through some of this, feel free to drop it in the comments section. Happy to jump off course a little bit if anyone find value. So the next thing when I think about these uncertain times and talking about adversity is the next thing that I think about is identify and solving obstacles. And this could be obstacles in your business, could be deal obstacles and so forth. And when you're presented with these types of obstacles, the best thing you can do in the moment when you're faced with a big obstacle hurdle is to never make assumptions. I'm going to repeat this again. Avoid making assumptions. You need to get to the root of the issue. And that is the most critical thing you can do when you run up against obstacles in deals or business or anything of that nature, relationships. You got to get to the root of the issue. You got to get to the bottom of it, right? So you got to hear all different sides, opinions, feedbacks. You got to understand exactly what is happening. And then you can't over communicate enough. So when you're faced with adversity, with deals or in business, making sure that you're communicating, even when you don't have a solve yet, just communicating that can go a long way. Like, hey, I understand this is an issue. Respectfully, it's an issue if this is an equal thing that I want to help solve for. I'm going to need a little bit of time to do my research or to be able to speak with you or speak with a team member or to review this deal or to talk to the lender or whatever it may be, right? You just need to communicate openly and honestly of what it is and where you're at and what it is you're trying to do. No communication, people are going to make assumptions, which is the first rule that I asked you not to break. Don't make assumptions. Well, people will make assumptions if you don't give them the clarity that they need. The other thing is speed matters. So your objective when you roll into any type of problem or situation, your goal is to resolve that as quickly as possible. The last thing you can do is have problems and issues just bloom. It's going to erode confidence. It's going to erode morale. And it's important that we try to resolve that in the most efficient way possible. And then something that so much this weekend, we were talking to my daughter about something. She's 11, and she said, "Dad, I don't know." And I always say, honey, you can't say we don't know. We say we'll figure it out. We live in the most opportune time ever as a human being. We have computer systems that are smarter than any time in human history at our fingertips. There's Claude, there's ChatGPT, there's all these amazing tools. And when I hear someone say, I don't know, it's an excuse for not putting in the work to solve the actual problem. We live in an information abundance today. We actually have an issue of filtering out what information should you be consuming. There's not a lack of information between AI and YouTube and everything else. Everything you need to know is online. I promise you, everything you need to know is right there. It's trying to figure out what information that you should actually be consuming. So you want to avoid telling yourself, I don't know. That's not an acceptable response. I will figure it out. I'll give you an example. We're working a deal. Kelly had mentioned we buy boring apartments in secondary markets of Indiana. I'll give you a live example of what I'm referring to here. So we're working this deal. It's a 27-unit apartment complex in Terre Haute, Indiana. Many of you have probably never heard of that, but if you know Larry Bird, that's where he went to college, Indiana State. I'm also alumni. And we're buying this 27-unit. Long story short, we went under contract under a specific set of terms. We get to the lender, and the terms, to keep it simple here, is the seller agreed to hold back some money on the deal, meaning he was going to act as a lender. We go to our lender network, and the lenders, for whatever reason, they weren't too keen on the idea of a second loan being on this property. For whatever reason, I won't get into it today, but there's some nuanced details outside of our control. But anyway, they came back and said, hey, we want to do the deal with you. We just prefer there not to be a second lien on the or a second mortgage on the property. We're like, okay. So we went back to the broker and we said, hey, Mr. Broker, we have a situation here. We'd like to figure out if there could be a win-win between us and the seller. And so we explained the situation to the broker. Broker then agreed to go back to the seller and see if the seller would agree to potentially revising terms slightly. We would make sure that he wasn't penalized and that essentially the net of this was not going to change. He was not going to be penalized in any way, and we would actually be willing to give him some more reinsurance. The broker comes back about a week later, calls me, I'm in Indiana, and he says, hey, the seller is not going to do it. And I said, so he said, hey, this isn't going to work. Well, most people would have took that as face value. And I chose the opposite approach. I said, I tried to understand why the seller made the decisions the seller did. Kind of make this a little bit shorter. I got to the bottom of it. The seller actually did not make the decision. The broker advised the seller that he should not do the deal. I thought that was very strange. I've never had that happen before. I said, Mr. Broker, kindly and respectfully, you do not have the right to make that decision. That should be on the seller. And come to find out, the broker had experienced or saw the structure that we were pros. So because it was something unknown to him, he just by default decided to tell the seller not to do it. So I kindly reminded him he had a fiduciary duty to inform the seller, and that I would ask that the seller get on the phone so we can explain it. Long story short, we get the seller on the phone, we explain it to the seller, and I kid you not, the seller's like, that sounds great. I'm willing to do that. So if I would have been quick to make assumptions, or if I would have said, hey, Mr. Broker, I heard you that he doesn't want to do that, and not really do my due diligence, we would have a different outcome here. So the fact that I was able to get to the real root of the issue, which was the broker was ill-informed or uneducated, that resulted in him making the decision for seller, I would have went down a different path here, right? So that just gives you a real life example of curiosity is so important when you're trying to solve problems, and it truly has to be a win-win for everyone involved. The next thing I think about when we're thinking about like uncertainty and in the market and so forth is typically when uncertainty presents itself and economies shift and markets go down, you'll often find that a lot of people will either lose momentum or they slow down. And a lot of that is purely driven off of fear. And this is where the rubber meets the road for people that are truly in a long-term game or not, right? The folks that you see that one day were buying apartment buildings and the next they're buying businesses and then now they're lending and they're doing this. They're just riding a trend, and they were never really bought into the mission to begin with, because it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when you're going to have that adversity again, right? So the key on being able to maintain momentum and to avoid slowing down, regardless of what the market is doing, is having a deep understanding of what it is that you're doing. It's becoming a domain expert, because there's so many things that we have no control over. We don't have control over market conditions. We don't have control over what the Fed does. We don't have control over if we go to war. We don't have control of all these things. We can only control what we can control. But the key thing to understand here is that clarity creates confidence. Let me read it again. Clarity creates confidence. Confidence drives action. Action produces results. If you're not clear, you will never get the confidence. And that's where people start to fall off, because all this noise around them starts to infiltrate their heads. Because they're not clear, they're not able to, they get distracted. If you're clear, you're going to avoid the distraction. You're going to stay focused, right? So clarity drives confidence. Confidence drives action. Action produces results. And so that's where intentional focus and discipline is critical when you're facing high levels of adversity and you have a lot of noise around you. You got to be able to block all that out. Discipline is critical here. The best operators, the folks that tend to win, don't change their goals and their mission just because they experience a little turbulence. They're going to stay the course. Just like anything, business is fluid. You're going to have to make some adjustments, and you're going to have to. I'll get into this piece here in a second, but talking about how to mitigate downside risk, they're going to make sure that they can withstand those downturns. But it's in essence, the core mission isn't changing regardless of what's going around them. They're just staying hyper focused. The next talking point that I think is critical here is relationships are going to be one of the most competitive advantages you could have at any season, but especially during an uncertain market or during a downturn. We've all heard the old saying, right? Your network is your net worth. And the other critical thing to understand is that you have to dig the well before you're thirsty. You can't start tapping into that network before you put in the work to earn the right to tap into the network. And then we've all probably seen or heard of the book. It's not how but who, right? And for me, when I think about the relationships that I have, these are relationships that stem many, many years, if not decades, well before, in most cases, before I even started to build what I'm building today. And I think back to my own success and my own relationships that I've built, and majority of those, again, have stemmed before I started what it is that I do today. And all I can think about is that every interaction that you have with someone is an interview. And that's what you have to understand. How you do one thing is how you do everything. So if you met someone 10 years ago and you treated them like crap, they're not going to forget that. They're not going to forget that. So fast forward 10 years where maybe you come back around and you reconnect again. And yes, people do change, but they're going to have that looming feeling that they experienced from you from 10 years ago. Even if you've changed, now you got to rebuild that experience and that relationship with that person. And you just never know when you may cross paths or when you may be able to when you may run into someone again. And so for me, it's always about coming from a servant mindset of how can I serve people regardless of getting anything in exchange. How can I serve people? And I've found the more good that I bring to the world, the more good comes back to me. I believe in the law of reciprocation. And so I go in figuring out how I can serve someone and bring the most value without any expectations. And God continues to prevail and he'll continue to bring good things to my life in approaching it that way. And I think the last thing on the relationships is a competitive advantage. When you're going through a tough time, the biggest advantage or strength that you're going to have is the support network around you. It takes a village to hold up a strong leader. As a leader or as a business owner or someone that's trying to do something meaningful in this world, you're going to encounter adversity like you've never experienced before. You're going to be challenged mentally more than you ever have before. And you got to have a support system, a spouse, a best friend, business mentors. You're going to need a tribe to help you get there. And the sooner you can start to build out your tribe, that community around you, the better off that you're going to be, because you can't, when you need them, isn't when you have to go look for them. You need to look for them before you need them. And so for me, I call it my board of directors, board advisors. Couples therapist that my wife and I use said it's impossible to get everything from one person. I believe that to be true as well. So things you may get from your spouse, maybe there's several boxes you get there, but then there's going to be aspects of your spouse that's not going to be able to deliver on all those things. So you got to go seek those people out. So I got someone I look up to. I got several people I look up to from a financial perspective. I got people I look up to from a spiritual perspective. People I look up with from a father perspective, a business perspective. You kind of get the point, right? I have a board of directors around me that I tap into at all different times. Coaches, I have multiple paid coaches that I work with that help me remain disciplined, hold the standard, keep my mindset right. These are people that I know have my back and that will support me. Probably one of the favorite things I wanted to talk with you all about today, or talk to you all on, is long-term thinking and staying in the game. Now, I know for many of you, because of the work that Kelli does, is many of you are doing house flipping, right? And you probably use Rehab Wallet to help fund those deals. And by definition, that would be considered a transactional move. But you're not playing a transactional game. The relationship you built with Rehab Wallet and the team there, that's not transactional. That's a long-term thing, right? Vendors, GCs, there's so many aspects of a flipper's business that is going to be considered long-term in nature. There's just the function of your business, the velocity at which the deals happen are considered transactional, but everything else around it would be considered long-term. And I think the more that you can understand that, the better off you're going to be and truly reach that pinnacle of success. And the goal, regardless of what season it is your goal is to survive the seasons. If you look at the people that are truly a player in their own right, in their domain or their industry, these folks, I guarantee you, the people you think of have been doing it for decades. Not a year, not 2 years, not 5 years, decades. Think about the person that you look up to the most. I almost guarantee you 99.9% of the people on this call would refer to someone that's likely been doing their expertise for many decades, right? So how did they make it when others didn't? Well, it goes back to clarity and mission and what they're focused on, but it also goes back to understanding downside risk. I was meeting with a billionaire out of Tampa here a few months ago, and he's started one business. He's done that for 30 years. That made him the majority of his wealth. Now he's sprinkled out in a bunch of different things. Built an amazing team. He built a team. Now the team's building on other businesses. And I said to this billionaire, I said, "Hey, how do you decide which business you choose to invest in?" And he gave me kind of two things that I really stood out to me. The first thing he said is, I don't invest in anything that I don't understand the full downside impact or downside risk of impact. And that really stood out with me. He said most people focus on the opportunity, the upside, the ROI, all the key metrics that we all hear and love to track, right? He said, I spend more time understanding what could I lose by choosing to invest in this thing. And that really stood out to me. I don't know if a lot of us do a good job with that. They get so memorized by the upside and the positivity of doing whatever you do. Could be flipping, could be buying mobile homes, whatever it is, right? Is do you truly understand your downside risk? And the key here is to never bite off more than you can chew, right? So let's use a house flipping as an example. And let's just say, you say you think worst case based on all the research and stuff you've done that the worst case could be that the property could drop 25%. Well, the key would be to never expose yourself to where you could not write that check or you could not overcome in the event that you would have a 25% drop in value. Let's just use that as an example. And you may say, hey, I got that covered. Okay, well, do you have 5 properties covered? The answer is no, you need to dial it back. You need to do 4. You need to do 3, right? You need to understand what that downside risk looks like because the goal isn't about just winning a specific season. It's about winning the marathon, the journey of what you're choosing to, allocate your time towards and build. And so you got to be able to weather all seasons, good times and bad times. And if you can't get through that downside or that bad season, then you'll never make it back to the good season again or ultimately get to your final destination. And so that was something that really stood out to me. And the second thing he said is, I track every day. I think about how quickly am I driving to work and how quickly am I driving home. He goes, if there's ever a point that I'm avoiding going in or that I'm driving faster home than I'm driving to is when I decide when and if I should be involved or just get rid of the business together. Those are two things that he said that really stood out to me. And then I think just kind of to cap it here, and then I would love to open it up to questions and so forth, is again, kind of highlighting a few things here is understanding where you're going, the mission, understanding that there's going to be ebbs and flows. If you've not studied finance, you should study at least a level of it. When you look at all the recessions and downturns and so forth, there's patterns that you can identify relative to those moments in time. And if you think that we're not going to have a downturn again, you're delusional. History has a way of repeating, right? So we've been in more or less a frothy market. We're kind of entering into a little bit more of a softer market. And we're TBD on where it goes from here, right? So now is the time to start getting your ducks in a row, building the relationships with hard money lenders like Rehab Wallet. Put in the effort now. So when you actually need someone, you've done the work necessary to ask for that help. And then just starting to prepare and put a financial moat around yourself personally in your business so that when downturns happen, you're not biting off more than you can chew. You can handle whatever that may look like so you can sustain the test of time. And then lastly is just making sure that you're hyper focused on what it is that you're building. I cannot repeat this enough. The more intentional you can be, the clearer your lens is going to be, your filtering lens on deciding where you choose to spend your time and where you choose not to spend your time. And the goal should always be, does this take me closer to my goal or farther away? If it's going to take you further away, you should get paid to say no. Set up a referral program, set up a commission structure, whatever you can do, or don't even monetize it. You're actually going to get paid to say no by not even doing it, because it's going to help you grow your business better and stronger towards your goal. So I know I covered a lot there. Happy to answer questions. Kelli, I don't know if you you want to jump in here, or if you have anything you want me to address, but I feel like I covered quite a bit there. Or Susie?
Yes, yes, absolutely. Thank you so much. While we are gathering all the questions, I've got one that I mean, I wrote down so many notes. So thank you so much for all the great bullet points that you just, I mean, I probably have 20, 22 maybe that that I wrote down myself. But if someone in the audience wants to start doing deals at a higher level, right? You've obviously been doing this for quite some time, but what's the one thing that they should focus on, like immediately, like today? You talked about taking up some sort of finance class, but what else can they do if they really want to start, doing deals at a higher level?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I get this question a lot, actually, Susie, and my response is always the same. Find the person you find your role model, the person you look up to, and get as close to that person as humanly possible. Proximity is power. So the goal is to essentially get in the room of the person doing whatever it is that you want to do, even if you're not getting paid. Offer support, offer a service, play a function of the role. You just need to get exposure, right? The exposure is what's most important if you want to scale up. Because if you've never done the thing before, there's so much risk in jumping off and doing it on your own. When you're doing I call it big boy deals, but when you're doing big things, you can't amass anything meaningful in life on your own. It takes a team. It takes a team. It takes a set of rock stars. And so the best thing you can do for yourself is get yourself in the room of that action of what's happening, so you can start to get exposed. You can start to learn. You can get developed, and that way you can mitigate. So when you are ready to potentially start your own thing or do it on your own, you at least have conceptual knowledge to how this operates and how it works. And more importantly, what you may find out is that you actually don't want to do that. You may actually find out that that isn't meant for you, and that you should be playing a sub function of that, right? And I think so many people, just again, the gurus out there talk about how great everything is. I'm a belief that majority of people should not be entrepreneurs. It's not that you can't. Everyone can be an entrepreneur if they really set their mind to it, but I don't think God called them to do that. I don't think most people should be entrepreneurs. I think a lot of people would be better entrepreneurs, right? And so that's just of my belief, is get in proximity, get yourself in the room of the people doing what it is that you want to do. And that's going to be the fastest way to do large, bigger things, is by exposing yourself to it versus trying to figure it out on your own.
Awesome. Thank you so much. We've got another question. What separates investors who can keep the momentum in tough markets versus those who freeze? You mentioned a lot. If everybody can do it, it would be easy. Everybody would be doing it. You mentioned a lot of your mentors that you have and coaches that you have yourself. But what are some things that you think really separates in today's market or any market? You mentioned the downturn is going to happen no matter what, right?
Yeah, so I was listening on James Tudor Paul. He's one of the most iconic investors of all time, and he talked about you all have heard of Warren Buffett, of course, he's the GOAT. But it talked about how when down markets happen, people allow that external noise to affect their decision making. But in reality, down markets are the best opportunity times, right? Because you're essentially buying things on discount. So if you know what you're doing and you have the clarity and the confidence, you're going to be able to execute. What ends up happening is when you're in a frothy market, or if you're in a bull market, anyone can win. Like anyone. I mean, it's 2020, anyone can win doing anything, right? Money was flowing, money was being printed, rates were 3%, et cetera. But what it did is it masked people's expertise, it masked people's actual strength in what it is that they're doing. And so it really boils back to, how good are you at what you do? And I'm of belief that less is more. So the more intentionally focused you can be. Kelli mentioned the three markets. It's actually less than 5 zip codes that we buy properties. And if you look at our deal profile, it's like a 20 check mark box that we have to check in order to say, yes, I'm going to buy this property. Well, because we have so much, we're so niche, we're so intentionally focused, we're so specific, we're so intentional about all those, what we're looking for. Our confidence is at an all-time high, which allows us to act faster and with more confidence and with more steadfast because we know exactly what it is that we're doing, how we win, how we lose, and what we don't want to do. It really just changes your behavior. So when these external things are happening, like a lot of people are like, oh, it's, like right now, multifamily is not sexy. It is not sexy to be a multifamily doing what it is that I do. It's crazy. We're going to buy more real estate over the next 24 months, I think, than we will in the next 10 years because competition's less. There's less people looking at it, which means that we have less competition. And so if you know what you're doing, it comes back to knowing what you're doing, then you're going to be able to take advantage of those opportunities. And that's where we're at right now. I think most people are just figuring out that they didn't really know what it is that they were doing at the level that they should to be an expert, to be a domain expert, and to take the action that they need. And they're allowing those external factors to ultimately change their behaviors.
Awesome. Thank you. I got one more. So you mentioned curiosity and how important and critical. And I think this goes across everything, right? I think as naturally as human beings, we avoid confrontation.
Yeah.
We don't want to peel the onion. We don't want to know what's behind that wall, and we avoid it as best as possible. When was it in your career that you felt the importance to pivot and the critical piece to just dig in and keep asking the questions? You mentioned the deal recently too, understanding and how that impacted your business. But at what point did you have to make that decision, or when did that kind of light bulb go off?
Yeah, I wish I had an answer you're probably going to want to hear, but the reality is some things in life you have to experience on your own. And I think without experiencing pain, it's not going to drive the correction or the behavior that you ultimately need to be successful in whatever it is. In this case is how do you actually get to the root of a problem? How do you get to the root of issue? How do you get to the root of conflict? And it came through error. It came into falling on my face over and over and over again of getting burned and making assumptions and assuming that this is what this teammate cared about or this seller cared about, and realizing that that's actually not the case, right? And so pain is inevitable. Pain is almost one of the most certain things you should expect. If you're going to amass anything, if you're going to build anything great, you should expect pain. And so in this case here, I don't know the exact timing, but what I can tell you is that it fell so many times on my face that I eventually had to learn it the hard way, right? And so you get tired of falling after a while, and that's the case for me. I've never been the brightest guy in the room, and first person to ever graduate with the higher education in my entire family. And so again, a lot of things I had to learn the hard way. And I think that I've had great mentors, and I've said this again, I'll say it now. Like I'm a byproduct of people that chose to pour into me, right? I would not be the guy I am today, the father, the husband, the business leader, if it was for people that decided to invest in me. And that also attributed to getting to this conclusion, which is, hey, before you speak, God gave us 2 ears for a reason and one mouth. They gave us 2 ears because you should listen more than you speak, right? And so understanding that is really critical in any leadership function, any business function. Talk less, listen more. And what you'll find is, even if you don't come to an agreement, you can agree to actually disagree. That's okay too. But oftentimes what I found is my perception or my assumption was wrong by just allowing the other person to provide their perspective, their lens, and just living, being able to walk in their shoes for 100 steps to understand how they're coming to that conclusion. I learned to have more empathy and more understanding for difference of opinions and different walks of life. And so, like anything, I think the more we can just lean in and ask questions. Kelli knows this, one of our shared coaches that we use, statements or questions over statements. Ben talks about questions over statements all the time, right? And so I try to do a better job of that every single day, leading and obviously building a business.
That's amazing, JD. Gracious, you were just dropping some nuggets. I was writing as fast as I could write with this pen. And I've been around a long time. I think that it doesn't matter how long you've been around, you still got something to learn. And just what you have on your board behind your head is a statement of kind of what you do every day. How you do one thing is how you do everything. It's in my office. It's down in my gym. It's in my, thing that I do every morning. Ritual that I do every morning is we just got to keep doing it. So I'm going to give you another stage for a minute and talk about some of these things that you do every day. And I'm impressed by this. And it's purposely done. It's intentionally done. It's not to, get blown up because you're not going to, go win a world record of bodybuilding here. That's just not what you're after. But you do it 2 days and two times a day for a reason. Just talk a little bit about your workout and talk a little bit about your decision to quit drinking alcohol.
Yeah, thanks, Kelly. I appreciate that. So I actually a quick update. So I was on the 2 workout train per day. I'm down to 1. I went 411 days doing 2 workouts per day.
Awesome.
I think the key thing here is my coach Ben really challenged me on. He's like, "Hey, what's a challenge or what's a goal that would really get you uncomfortable?" And we're working through this personally, professionally, physically, spiritually, all things. When I got to the physical component, I was like, "Man, 2 workouts a day." I thought it was physical when I started it. I was like, "All right, this is going to be tough physically. I'm going to be worn out. It's going to be hard on my muscles and all that." But what I later found is it was actually never a physical goal. It was a mental goal. And that's what it boiled down to is it was mental strength. And so I did, unfortunately, I'm back to 1 per day. So I've been on almost nearly over 450 days now of hitting 1 workout per day. And but what you're asking is so the way that I designed my life, people talk about work-life balance. I don't really believe in work-life balance, to be honest with you. I believe in work-life integration. And how I operate my days is I have personal, professional, non-negotiables every single day. So I'm not necessarily getting 1 for 1. So I'm not necessarily spending 1 hour in my personal life to get 1 hour in my professional. It doesn't always look that way, but I have non-negotiables in each sector of my life. And I'll give you a few of those to kind of help explain it a bit further. I call it my prize fighter day. But personally, I have to have time to pour in myself, to invest in myself, in my mind. So that's waking up. It's reading my devotional. It's prayer time. It's also looking at my goals daily. So I look up my goals daily, and then I have I at least work out once a day. So about an hour a day, I'm working out. And then another example of that would be I have dinner with my family. As long as I'm not traveling, I have dinner with my family every single night. It's a non-negotiable, phone down, not on my phone. Professionally, I have professional things. So example of that is one of the professional things that I have 3 point of contact. Even today, as a CEO with over 50 plus full-time employees, I still have 3 points of contacts a day, and that could be either in the form of bringing new investors to our group. It could be something pertaining to acquisitions, or it could be for bringing on a new team member. So I have to do 3 points of contacts a day. Another example of that would be pouring into someone, serving someone on a professional perspective. So I find a way to teach someone a sense of ownership in our business every single day. So I'm finding an opportunity to pour into someone. And so those are just a couple examples, right? And so if I do those things, no matter what happens in the day, which a lot can happen as an entrepreneur, a lot can happen in a day. But if I get those things done, then I win. I win the day, regardless of what the outcome of the day is. If I just do those non-negotiables personally and professionally every single day, then I win. And so that's how I decide at the end of my day. Everyone has to ask themselves, did I leave it all out in the field? The way I determine if I left it out in the field is, did I check all those boxes? I also provide some form of value of posting and sharing something on my mind every single day. You'll get to follow me on any type of social media. You'll see I post every single day. There's another one on there as well. But long story short, that's how I approach my day. Every day is in that same capacity. I'm going to own those non-negotiables. I'm going to get those things knocked out, regardless if I'm traveling for. I mean, when I was doing 2 workouts a day, Kelly, there's one time I got a workout in at 1:30 a.m. We hit the road at 2. We didn't get back to Indiana until 7 p.m. Put the kids down, did a second workout. I was almost up for 24 hours, right? But I told myself, I have to keep the promises I make to myself, right? And it's as little or as subtle as that may sound. Most people never follow through with the things that they tell themselves, regardless how big or small it may be. And I would challenge your audience, track it for a week, regardless of big or small. What did I tell myself, and did I actually do it? I had a mentor walk me through that exercise. I'm too embarrassed to tell you the result. It wasn't good, and that was starting to shift into where I have the level of discipline I have in today, which is, hey, if I tell myself I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. And that's why I'm very selective and almost hesitant anymore. My wife likes to say, I think you went to the other extreme. I'm like hesitant. I don't know, maybe I'll get back to you. Like, so I tell people all the time, if I tell you I'm going to do something, you bet the farm I'll do it. If I tell you I'm not going to do it, don't bank on it because I'm probably not going to do it. Right. So I've got to that point.
I mean, that just drills down the consistency piece of things, right? Is you hit on the whole little wheel of life, whether it's professional, spiritual, emotional, financial, all the things, right? It's just this master class, this discussion, these lunches that we do, these coffees that we all do together, and get to know each other, dinners. It's got nothing to do with money, to be honest with you. It has to do with the full circle of life, and it just happens to be that if you do a few of these things consistently, I've always learned on a quest for success in the last 30 years, whether I was playing ball or this, right? It has nothing to do with good looks, social intelligence, IQ. I thought it was early on. It has everything to do with grit and consistency, doing it over and over and over again. Everything you do today, how you live, the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. The other day, something fell off a cart when I was with my mom was here, and something fell off a cart, a piece of trash on a cart, and it was pouring rain the day before yesterday, pouring rain. I was trying to get her. She was using, TJ Maxx, and we were in Marshalls, and we were still using TJ Maxx's little stroller thing because I didn't want her to not have it. And so, and trash fell off on the ground, and it is pouring rain. And I kept going, and then I thought, there's no way. I got to go back and pick up the trash. The way you do one thing is the way you do everything, right? The way you do one thing is the way you do everything, whether it's trash, pick up for your community or whatever. The way you do one thing is the way you do everything. Whether it's workout, whether it's leading, guiding your people, whether it's the way you work, the way you do things. You talked a little bit about some things, and I'm going to give Susie something real quick because it's important. Because I need to give her a little touch today because that's stuff that I try to do as well. Is that you talk about your daughter and how she just say, I don't know. There's sometimes we email and I hit Susie an email. She probably has no clue of what I'm saying, but this is what she'll say. Got it, done, consider it done. She might not know because she said she's got 25 years of managing people and retail experience. When she first came to this business, she didn't know what LTV was, much less, what we do now with creative financing and all the things we try to do, right? Before that light switch went on, but she still like, got it, done. And if you just want to move up, whether it's in as a director and she's running, leadership in this company now. But when I was in corporate America, right, I learned that that's all you got to say. Go figure it out on your own, but say that thing. We're not going to say, I don't know. We're going to say, and I think you're guiding your daughter in a big way. And last but not least, I have to say this because I think it's important that we say this as you're a girl dad. You're raising this daughter to be able to walk into a boardroom full of men and to be seen a certain way and to have that confidence when she's walking in that room that I can do this. So all this raising that you're doing with that young lady of yours is very, 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 very important. Guys, we got a ton poured into us today. I appreciate you so much, JD. He raises capital every day. I personally, and I'll just say this, I personally invest with JD on the equity side. We have our own fund here at Rehab Wallet, but I need depreciation. And so I look for equity investors and, equity operators. I flipped for almost 20 years. I did the solo entrepreneur, the entrepreneur thing as far as dealing with self-ownership of the real estate myself. Active piece. I don't want to be that anymore. I'm now in my third quarter of life, end of third quarter, and of a career. And so I want to invest passively with operators that I know and trust. And this man knows what he's doing, and respect him. And I respect the niche that he's in. He's in, like he said, what do you say, five zip codes?
Five zip codes.
That you don't get more niche than that, right? He knows what he's doing. Mike, his partner's on the boots on the ground every single day. I respect Mike as well, and appreciate everything that you guys are doing. Guys, listen, that's what this master class is for. We're just trying to deliver value. Rehab Wallet is more than a lender. We're going to deliver content and value. I thank you, JD, for being here with us. Susie, I'm going to let you close it out. Let us know a little bit about the next speaker, and then we'll
Yes.
let
Before
everybody
we
get on
close
to their
out though,
day.
JD, if anybody wants to reach out to you or connect with you, how do they do that? So I think that's important.
Yeah, again, just want to reiterate, Kelly, Susie, on behalf of the whole Rehab Wallet team, thank you so much for the opportunity to come here and just spend a little time with your audience. This is awesome. Would love to continue building relationships with anyone that wants to do that. To answer your question, I just dropped my personal website, so if you want to check that out, I think Susie or the Rehab Wallet team also dropped my LinkedIn. So those are two good spots. If you want to get in contact with me, you'll find contact information at either one of those locations. You can find me on all the social platforms, though. I'm in Charleston, South Carolina, where Kelly and the rest of the team are. So if you're local to Charleston, you want to connect, definitely get a hold of me. Would love to do so.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And yes, guys, tune in next month, June 1st at 11:30 a.m. We're going to have Anna Teixeira, Director of Portfolio Strategy here with Rehab Wallet. She's going to talk about really successful flips are built on discipline, not optimism. So we're going to dig in a little bit deeper on that. Well, we're going to uncover a lot of key mistakes that separate profitable investors from those who struggle. So join us June 1st at 11:30 a.m. As always, guys, thank you so much. We are doing this for you guys to be able to provide some value. JD, thank you so much. We are going to continue to follow your journey. Thank you.
Thank you.